whether it was nuclear weapons or health issues or gun issues or violence issues or just corporate issues. It was all really the same thing. So when it got to be time for the network, I was already feeling that this was the power. The power was to bring people together around this common understanding that we're all really working for the same thing. So when I came to that room in February of 1991 and saw those 350 people from all those groups, I was just so inspired and wanted to be as much of a part of it as I can.
It strikes me that, especially someone who maybe is living in isolation, doesn't have a lot of contact with other peace activists, it must have been
Boy,
inspiring.
I was always in communication. I ran the newsletter after Jeff Petrick. He did the first year and a half, and then I took it over in March '93 through 2002. And through that whole period of time, there was always people emailing or calling or sending in articles saying, "Boy, I'm so grateful because I would not be in touch with these pieces of news through my normal news services." The newsletter both was able to get out the news from the individual organizations of the network, but also, as I say, to bring people together around issues and announce things like the annual assembly where everyone could come together and discuss what they had in common and learn from each other and plan what they were going to do. How could we work together? It was a kind of an amazing thing. As I looked back, I saw that, boy, back in the end of '91, I think we had about 25 organizations as part of the network, and by the time I ended my part of the newsletter in 2002, we had 96 organizations part of the network, and I think now we've got over 180 organizations. And so the network was continuously growing as different groups realized the benefits of being connected to others.
So, but I think showing that people have common issues and common beliefs is really important, because I mean the other side, the status quo wants us to be divided in our little boxes, not talking to each other. That's sort of the divide and rule tactics. That's how they maintain their power. And how do we build grassroots energy? And it's through that creative synergy, breaking down those barriers, talking to people we maybe don't normally talk to, and say, oh, actually, a worker just lost their job in a factory in Milwaukee due to outsourcing to China. May have actually a lot in common with a farmer who's also suffering due to price manipulations in Chicago. It's probably the same corporations involved, in fact. Right. And sure enough, they find common ground and work together. And next thing we have farmers speaking at labor rallies and labor activists like David Newby coming to speak at farmer rallies. So, and that's the type of thing the network facilitates.
What got you involved originally? Were you thinking back to those early days?
Yeah, I had been wondering for quite a while since I had come out of Vietnam in 1970. And I had never been a part of any kind of organization when I first came out of Vietnam. I just wanted to be left alone, me and my family. I didn't care about anything. But I started wondering why were we in Vietnam, so it made me begin to read, and not to justify why I was there, what I was doing, but justify the reason for being there. And when Daniel Ellsberg released the Pentagon Papers, it made me angry. That I had been a part of this, that it destroyed so much. So I started having problems with post-traumatic stress disorder. And in 1991, I think it was, I first met Nan Cheney. And at that time, I was still having those problems, and Nan was out recruiting people to, become a part of the organization. So I was getting crabby at home, so my wife told me, go and get in something. So we both went to the first meeting they had. I think it was in February. I know it was cold out when we went. So I got in it, and I started getting involved. And after the U.S. went into Kuwait, I started having more bouts of PTSD. So I made the meeting and a few more meetings at the Capitol with WMPJ. Then I just dropped out. Like I said, I couldn't handle it anymore. So I stayed out until September 11, 2001. September 11th is my birthday. And when I saw how the media was playing this up, I knew that the United States was going to attack somebody. So I went to a meeting. Tammy Baldwin was having a town hall meeting in DeForest, And I went there with questions originally to ask her about the School of Americas because I was familiar with that school. I was stationed in Panama. I taught jungle warfare right down from the School of Americas. And when I got to the meeting, I forgot what I was going to ask her. And I started talking about Afghanistan. And at that time, I felt that we should not do it in that way, that this was something that happened that really didn't surprise me because I was aware of what the U.S. had been doing all over the world. And I think I used the words that the chickens had come home to roost. So at the meeting with Tammy Baldwin, its town hall meeting, I met Bob Feith and Mike White was there, and Mary Sanderson, one of the agent grannies. And after I had my 3 minutes talking with Tammy, all three came over to me and told me they appreciated what I said. And the first question I asked was, are you just against this war? Because of them saying that way that, you know, we are for peace, period, it lured me into it, because if it was just something to try to stop this war, I wouldn't have become a part of it. So, you know, it through the years, it's been something that has been driving me, and this time, rather than the way in 1991, when I was having a bout with PTSD, when I started speaking out about it, my psychiatrist said it was therapeutic for me because I was releasing hate that I had carried for years, that I would have found a way where I could do it constructively. So that's how I started speaking out and doing what I could in counter-recruit. And I feel that young people are the ones that will really bring the change that has to come in this country.
Forever for love and for life on the great peace march. Forever for love and for life on the great peace